see you. There has been something going on recently. Okay, time to be real. Guess I gotta do that really quickly. I'm sorry, I'm obligated. Basically, there has been a chess boom. A chess boom. A chess boom. Chess.com has had the highest daily users than it's ever had. And videos of YouTubers playing chess has just blown up. Chess boxing, didn't like Cristiano Ronaldo play chess or something like that. But basically, chess has been more popular than it's ever been. So, today I thought I could make a video that would explain the basic functions of chess and just the how to play. I've been playing for about a year now. Like, seriously, I've always kind of known how to play, but I've been really getting into strategy, and studying the games. Like, I got 3 chess books for Christmas, and basically, it's been just such a wild ride. I've loved playing, but let's just get into it, okay? There's the white side and the black side. Okay. White always goes first. That's a forfeit if you do that, I believe. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. White always goes first. White has many moves it can make, but it always goes first. Now, before we can even play the game, we need to understand how the pieces move. So basically, there are 4 pieces, or 5 pieces, I guess. The king counts as a piece. There are 5 different pieces, and there are pawns. Pawns technically don't count as pieces, but if you say they're a piece, I'm not going to get upset at you. Now we need to know how they move. Let's start with a rook. Let's start with a rook. Because to me, it's the easiest piece to move. The rook can move straight across, any which way, but it can only move back and forth. Back and forth, or side to side. Let's bring it back to the middle. So basically, this rook can move up here, along this file is what this is called. Up and down is a file, and the rook can move there. Then it can also move along this rank, which is side to side. And that is how a rook moves. The next piece is a bishop. Now this is actually important because there are 2 bishops on each side. There's a light square bishop and there's a dark square bishop. So for the sake of continuity, let's use the same color. Okay. You only have 1 that works on each side, or each on the specific square. Now the reason, you might have already figured it out, is because bishops move diagonally. Like Harry Potter. Diagonally. Always on the same color square. Kind of like a rook, but only diagonally. bishops are sometimes called or referred to as snipers because they can come from the side and just snipe a piece and take it out. And that's how a bishop moves. Now, queen is pretty fun because a queen, if you understand a bishop and a rook, is the combination of both of them. The queen can move forward, backward, side to side, and this is the best part, diagonally. So you can move forward like this, and then diagonally, and then forward again, and then diagonally back. And the queen can practically go anywhere. The queen can practically move anywhere, practically anywhere. It's the most powerful piece. Now, here's a knight. Now this guy is a bit confusing because, how do I explain this? The knight moves in an L shape. Okay. As in 2 squares one way, and then 1 square left to right. Like an L. Like that. And a lot of people see it differently. My brother sees it as moving diagonally once and then forward. Or diagonally once and then side. I see it as moving 2 squares in one direction and then 1 square in another. So basically, if you can visualize with me, please, the knight can move here. 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 And the knight can move here. There's 8 squares that the knight can move right now. And they're all moving, basically move forward and then 1 to the side, or move 2 to the side and 1 forward, or 1 backward. However you can visualize it and it makes sense to you, that works. Just remember, it's moving in an L shape, practically, in every way. And that is a knight. Another piece is a pawn. And I know I just basically said that pawns aren't pieces, and they're not, and so I don't know why I just screwed that up. My bad. I apologize for my ignorance and insolence. Pawns can move forward 1. Ta-da, that's it. They can move forward 1. They can move forward 1. Except, and if you are a chess genius, you know this already, but pawns have 2 special moves. And I'll explain the first one right now, and the second one a little bit later in the video. Okay. So if the pawn is not moved yet, basically how you start a game is something similar to this, just a small version of it, where there's a row of pieces and then there's a row of pawns. Now, if the pawn so chooses to, the first move that a pawn can make is moving 2 forward. And that is the only time a pawn can move 2 spaces. If it's the first time that pawn is moved in the whole game, it can move 2 spaces. It has that option. It can still move 1 if you prefer, but it can also move 2. So say this is a very common opening. Pawn moves 2. Another pawn moves 2. That's a very common way to open the game. But other than that, once it gets 2 forward, it can only move 1 forward. Except, and now this is the tricky part, We haven't gone into trading pieces yet. But the pawn can capture a piece when it's diagonal from it. So normally a pawn can only move 2 forward, right? And then move 1 forward as well. But it can capture a piece if it's diagonal. For instance, like that. That is how a pawn will capture a piece. Diagonally from it. And it could be right here. And it can capture. Okay. The last piece that we have is the tallest of the bunch. We have a king. Right there. There's a king. A king can move in any direction that the king chooses. Just only one square. So if this is the central square here, we can move there, 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 there. Anywhere. Now, capturing pieces. Okay. We're going to start to get a little bit more sophisticated, okay? Here's a queen. Okay. Here's a knight. And here's a rook. Okay. Actually, we're going to put the knight here. And we're going to put a bishop right here. Okay. Now here's the interesting thing. Actually, we're going to put a bishop right there, just to be a little fancy. It's a nice little square. / diamond. Okay. Basically, the queen can capture any one of these pieces. Because all you have to do to capture a piece is to move to the same square that the piece is on. So the queen, let's say it's white's move. The queen can move here and capture the knight. The queen can also move here and capture the bishop. The queen can also move here and capture the rook. I hope you can see that and visualize it. So much of chess is visualizing what you can do with your pieces. But that is basically how a capture works. And it's basically the same for every piece except for the pawn. The pawn is the only piece that captures in a strange way. I don't know why I showed you at first. I apologize. So if we're turned around into another situation, here's a bishop and here's a knight. Because the bishop is able to move to this square, it can capture this piece. And capturing just means it takes the piece off the board and it's out of the game. And then the hardest ones are knights. This looks strange. Whoopsies, excuse me. This looks strange because the bishop can't see the knight technically, because it only sees on the white diagonals. But the knight, because it moves two squares forward and 1 square to the side, it can capture the bishop. This makes knights very tricky and very dangerous. Very tricky and very dangerous. Perfect. So, how do you win? How do you win the game? Obviously, if you're playing a game, you want to learn how to win it, right? Okay. The goal of the game is to capture the king. The first team to capture the king wins. Now, I will say, I'm going to move that a little bit. I will say, technically, chess is a very formal gentleman's game, if you will. And you will never actually capture the piece. You'll never ever capture the king. It is called checkmate, which means that no matter what move the other person makes, the king will be captured on the next move. And that's technically how you win. So black is trying to get white's queen, or king, and white is trying to get black's king. So let's set up a checkmate. Okay? Let's just basically, the queen is attacking the king and can capture the king. Like let's say the queen was right here, okay? So right now the king is not under attack at all. There's nothing attacking the king, so the king, let's say the king moved right here. There's nothing attacking the king. The king is safe for now. The king is safe. However, we got a queen who can move diagonally, and that attacks the king because the queen is able to move to this square and capture the king. However, black still gets a move, right? Well, let's look at black's options. Let's look at what black can do. Black's king is under attack. So, you might think, well, let's move the king out of the way. Well, remember. The queen can move diagonally as well, so that's not a safe square. The queen can just move there and take. So we can't do that. Maybe there? No. Same issue. Well, here? No. The queen can take, but also the rook can take. Maybe here? No. The queen can take still. And you might think, well, why don't I just take the queen? The king can move there, correct? That's true. However, the rook was protecting the queen. So that means the next move, the rook would swing in and capture the king. And you can't put your king in danger. You can't move anywhere, basically. Because the queen will capture the king, no matter what. And if the king captures the queen, the rook will capture the king. So white will still have a king, and black will not. So this is called checkmate. 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 And that is the goal of the game. At this phase in the game, black would shake hands with white, and they would say good game. It is rude, I believe, to take the king after. So, now you know what checkmate is. That's how you win. Well, how do you lose? There's not really a way to lose, I guess, besides getting checkmated. There's a way to tie, however. It's called stalemate. Now, stalemate is meaning when the king is not in danger. So right here, the king is not in danger. Right here, the king is not in danger. So let's say on this last move, white moved the rook to this spot. Now, again, the king is not in danger. The queen is not attacking the king anywhere. The queen cannot see the king, basically. The queen can see the rook can see the queen, but no one's attacking the king. So now it's black's move. Now, black is not in danger, but black has to make a move, right? But anywhere the black goes, the king will be taken. So therefore, the king cannot move. It would be an illegal move. This is called a stalemate, because you can't force someone to put their king in danger. You can't force the king to be taken if it's not under attack. So this is a way to tie. This would be a tie game, because white was unable to checkmate the king, and black was unable to checkmate the king. But black can't make a move. You might think this is dumb, and this is a silly rule. This happens more than you would think, especially when you get started. Sometimes it's too much to think about where the king can move, and you only want to think about where your pieces can move, and that makes a lot of sense. But this is a stalemate. I just wanted to tell you, because I think it's an important aspect of the game. It's a way to tie. There are also two other ways to tie. One is called repeated moves, and one is called, I think it's like 30 move rule or something. Basically, if you repeat the same move 3 times, it's a tie. And if both teams repeat the same move 3 times, it's a tie. And I think it's like if there are 30 moves in the game that don't change the outcome of the game at all or whatever, then it's a tie. Something like that. those happen less often, but I want to let you know that those exist. You can look those up if you would like to. Okay. So let's take these off really quickly. For the rest of the video, I'm going to be explaining the game and the pieces and movements through these this system called algebraic notation. Now you might have noticed these letters and the numbers. This is a chessboard that has the numbers and letters written out, but they always exist, even on a chessboard that's blank. They always exist. And it's what you can use to record a game, to describe a game to someone. People can use it to be blindfolded, and they can say, move a specific piece to a specific square. So that means that each square has its own name. So, I just wanted to let you know that I was going to be using algebraic notation as correctly as I can throughout the video when I'm explaining moves. So, let's get the board set up again. Okay, perfect. Now just take a look at the board, and this is how you correctly set up a chessboard. It might seem easy, but surprisingly, in a lot of TV shows and a lot of entertainment in general, people actually, oh my gosh, this rook is being like, people actually get this wrong a lot. So, an easy way to remember is that the bottom right corner of each player's board needs to be a white square. Now you might not think that this is important, but it very much is once you get into the details of the game. If you're a beginner and you're just playing with your friends, it doesn't matter. It probably doesn't. But it really does when you get into the meat and potatoes of the game. So just set up the board right. Bottom right square is a light square. Another thing you might notice is that the queens are on the same side and the kings are on the same side. That can look like a mistake, but that is actually how it's supposed to be set up as well. This is called the queen side, and this is A through D. Files A through D. And when I should mention that the files are the letters and the ranks are the numbers. So files A, B, C, and D are on the queen side. And files E, F, G, and H are on the king side. It splits the board up into two distinct sides. And that is also more important the more you get into the meat and potatoes of the game. But that's how you set it up. The queens are on the D file, and the kings are on the E file. Just make sure they're facing each other usually. Okay, so let's get into the game. Okay, basic strategy. I'm going to be going through a set of rules called opening principles that are basic ideas you need to remember about the game, especially in the first maybe 10 or so moves. Okay, opening pieces or opening principles. The first thing you need to do is develop your pieces. I'm sure this is easy to understand. All it means is move your pieces. Okay, which that's very, very easy to do. But which pieces do you move first? Well, a way to help you decide that is the second principle of chess. And that's control, 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 control. The center, the center, the center, the center. Control the center. These center four squares are crucial to the game. I won't get into why, or I'll get into a little bit, but I'm not going to focus too much on it. Just know that it's a big part of the game. The center is where most pieces are most powerful, is the center. And I'll demonstrate that here with my next point. If you control the center, there's a few ways to do that on the first move. The most popular opening move of chess is pawn E4. And in chess notation, that's just called E4. I just wanted to be more specific for you. Basically, this move controls the center in a lot of ways. Because the pawn can take on these two diagonal squares, you now control these diagonal squares. Okay? So, what that means is if this pawn moves to f5, remember they can move too in the first move. This pawn controls that square, so you can just take it. Okay? And now you have a pawn that controls even more squares on black's side. So, that is the most popular first move. A lot of openings is what they're called. Start with that move. Another popular move is pawn d4. For a lot of similar reasons, that is another popular move. Now, you might think that those are the only two pawns, or only two pieces, or moves you can make in the opening. Well, there are two more moves that are very, very, very popular. Very, very, very popular. And they utilize the knights. So, moving the knight. Oh, I should explain this as well. Knights are the only pieces that can jump over other pieces. Because of the weird, strange way that a knight moves, it actually is jumping over pieces. So rook or bishop or queen, they need to be able to see the open squares to move there. So right now this rook can't move anywhere, and neither can this bishop, because the pawns are in the way. The knight, however, gets free rein to jump over any pieces it so chooses. So this is another popular move. And you might not be able to see it yet because knights are difficult to view, but it's because this knight now controls this square and this square. And those are two of the center four squares. So it's pretty beautiful. It's pretty beautiful. It's a beautiful move. Now, one thing I will say is the knight, as you can see, is pretty dominant in the center of the board. It can move to 1, 2, 3, 4 places. 1 to 5 if you want to undevelop, but that's not very common or recommended for beginners. Now, the reason why the center is so important is because of like knights and bishops and rooks. All the pieces thrive in the center because they can move the most amount of squares usually. So if you develop this knight to the side here, it can now only move 2 spots, or undevelop, which again is not a great recommended move for beginners. So you try if it's at all possible, try to avoid moving your knights to the side. I think the saying goes, knights on the rim are dim. So this is a popular move because it protects those squares, and just for the same reasons, this is also a popular move. This knight to c3 here, because now the knights control all 4 squares in the center, and it's beautiful. So those are popular. Very popular. Okay, rook on a8, you need to chill. Those are very, very popular. So you can choose whichever way you want to start the game. Bad moves are like, that's not a great move. Anything on the side is not great in the start, and it's not like you can never do it because there are always exceptions to all these rules, but for a beginner it's good to understand these basic concepts so you can have a reason to break them later, right? So basically we're going to do e4, the most popular pawn move, or the most popular opening move, first move of the game. Now, it is important though, because you want to move pawns to create a center. Like, look at this barrier that the pawns are making. It's beautiful. This pawn can take here, this pawn can take here, and vice, they are just protecting all of these squares, so it's hard to move anywhere. You can't move there. It's really difficult. But you don't want to move too many pawns. Just be careful, because when you allow space, like this to be open behind the pawns, it makes the pieces behind it more weak and less protected, especially the king, which is the most important piece. Because if you lose the king, you lose the game. So, just a little tip. Try not to move pawns as much, or too much. Try not to move pawns too much. So, another opening principle is you want to move your knights before you move your bishops. Now, knights and bishops are valued as very similar pieces, and we'll get into the value of each piece in the next section. But because of opening, let's do e4, right? The most popular move. Let's say black does e5, which I think is probably the most popular move for black in this position. You have a couple options here. Now that your pawn is out of this square, your bishop can see all of these squares. It's beautiful. Your bishop just became very, very, very powerful piece. A very, very, very powerful piece. But there's a lot of places for the bishop to go, right? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. Now that's quite a few squares, so it might be hard to know where you want to move them. Also, bishops can move here in one single move, because the bishop can move however long it can see. However long far the bishop can see, it can move there. So that makes them very, very powerful as well. Now, knights, they have short legs. Yes, they can jump over pieces, and it's very helpful, but it'll take a long time. Like, if knight wanted to get to the same square as the bishop, right here, how many moves does it take? That take 1, 2, 3 moves. That takes 3 moves to get to the same square. So the bishop is way more efficient than the knight. So another reason you want to develop knights first is because you'll want to move them into critical positions later, but if you didn't develop the needed moves beforehand, they will be far too far back, and you'll need to waste moves and give your opponent plenty of time to catch on to what your plan is. And then another small reason why, specifically in this position, this is a powerful move is because now the knight is attacking this piece. If you can see that, the 2 and 1. So that's another reason. But and then a smaller, minute detail is that you might want the bishop to go a different place, depending on the state of the board, and you really don't want to move a piece more than twice in the opening. So that is the next point. So let's say you did move the bishop here. Now, this is not a great move, because what black all has to do is move a pawn forward. Now this pawn is attacking the bishop. So now the bishop has to move again. Well, let's just say they push another one. Okay, now the bishop has to move one more time. Where can the bishop go? I mean, you could go here, but then you run into that again. It's just so much. So, okay, now it's safe. They can't move a piece that'll immediately attack the bishop. But if you see what you did there, is you took 3 moves to get the bishop to a safe square, when you could have done that in 1 move. Let's try it again. So you want to move the bishop. Bishop d3. Now there's no this, there's nothing chasing down your bishop. Now again, you might not want this knight. You don't want this here necessarily because the pawn is in the way, but take away the point earlier. If you move this, the reason why this is not a great move is because you are giving, okay, these pieces are, there we go, we're good. You are giving your opponent 3 free moves, and now they get to develop wherever they like. They developed 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and you developed 1, 2 piece. And white goes first. White has the advantage at the start of the game, so you don't want to lose that advantage. The ability to move first in this game is very, very, very strong. So you don't want to move a piece when one's in the opening because you're not being efficient with your moves. And that's an important thing. Another thing is you don't want to move your queen out too early. So your queen is your most powerful piece. Okay? It's a 9. You don't know what that point means yet, but it's worth 9 points. Okay? It's the most powerful piece. And if you bring it out early, the hard thing about it being such a powerful piece is that, we'll say it moves here. And for a similar reason, you do this. The queen is much different though because it's so powerful. Any other piece attacking it besides the queen is you want to run away from. So because you don't want to give up your queen for the pawn, right? You don't want to do that. You don't want to give it for free. But even if you have a knight here, even if you have a knight here, you still want to move this out of the way. And so if you bring the queen out too early, it actually can be the weakest piece on the board because whenever your teammate attacks it, because you don't want to lose it, you have to keep moving it and keep it getting out of your way. And so let's say you played a move like g4. Now you'd think this protects the queen. And yes, it does. It totally does. But if the knight takes the queen, the knight is a less powerful piece. So you may get a knight. You maybe captured their knight, but they got your queen. And so it's really important that queen is one of the last pieces that you develop because also like the bishop, it can be in a lot of places and you want to make sure that you put it where it's supposed to be. So I hope that makes sense because it's the most powerful piece. You don't want it to go under fire too quickly. Okay. Now there are 2 fancy moves that you can do in the game. Okay. This one might be a little difficult to understand, but the pawn, wonderful piece. It's a fancy move. It's called en passant. And you are legally obligated to make it if you ever get the opportunity. It doesn't happen very often. I just don't want you to be surprised. Basically what happens is your pawn is here, okay? Let's say they played a move like this and you got to move it forward. If they move their pawn, because they get to move their pawn forward twice on the first move, if this happens only on their first, only when they move it 2 forward and your pawn is here, you can still take it by moving diagonally. It might not make sense to you. That's okay. This isn't super common. I don't want you to be surprised. The only reason it exists, and maybe this is easier, the only reason it exists is because we don't want this pawn to get a free pass to not get captured. So if that happens, it's still available to be captured. Now there are some specifics, like you can only do it, that it can only be your next move when they play that. You can't play random stuff and then capture. No, you can't do that. You have to decide then and there on your next move if you want to capture that piece. And it's as if it just moved there. So that's one thing I'll explain, but it's really not super common, but you can look it up. It's called en passant. If my definition and explanation wasn't very helpful. Another thing you can do, let's just say there's some development, okay, which is called an Italian game for white. That's what this is called. Basically, there's this move. It's called castling, and here are the rules for it. If your king has not moved and your rook has not moved that you're using, and there's nothing blocking the movement, you can do this special move called castling. Now this is a vital part of the game. The saying is castle early and castle often, because your king is your most valuable piece, because if you lose your king, you lose the game. So this protects the king behind 3 pawns and a rook, and look at how nice and cozy the king is. It's just living luxury like a king should. Now, again, this can only happen if you have not moved your king throughout the game. So if you did something like this, nope, that nullifies it. You can no longer castle. And you haven't moved the rook that you're trying to swap places with. That's what it looks like. It's beautiful. You should do it every game. Not every game, but a lot of games you should do it because it is a very powerful move. Because if you castle like this, look at how protected your king is, and then you can just destroy and start attacking on the queen side here and just demolish black. You can also do this on the other side as well. So let's say we did this instead. Something like this. You can castle here too, as long as you haven't moved the king. And you haven't moved the rook. And all you do is the king moves 2 spaces to whichever side it's castling, and then the rook moves to the other side of where the king is. And that's how it looks. This side is a little different. It's a little more aggressive because your rook is seeing your queen, things like that. It's a tactic that you can use to be aggressive as well. So that's castling. I will say, because your king is so important, you can't castle through check either. So let's do this. For the sake of the discussion, let's say this is the setup of the board. Because the bishop sees this square, and the king would move to that square, you are not allowed to castle. Because you would be putting your king under attack technically, and you can't do that. It's an illegal move, as we established earlier. So that's another exception to the rule. And again, it's not super important, but I want you to know that exists. Because that does happen, especially the more you play. You can start using that to make your teammates' lives hard. Or not teammates, make your enemy, opponent's life harder. And then just another thing is once you get into the game, so let's do this where we just are playing a game, and this is what's happening. Okay, man, this rook, I'm really hitting this rook all the time. Let's just say that this is the setup, okay? You're pretty far into the game, this is the setup. And we castle this side. So this is called connecting your rooks. When your rooks see each other, they are a force to be reckoned with. And you will see that throughout your game. When your rooks protect each other, they wreak havoc. Okay? They really do. They are very valuable pieces, and that'll be the next section, and I'll explain the value of each piece, but just try to do that as well. Castling helps, and they can see each other, clearing the back rank and letting the castle, or connecting the rooks, is very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Very powerful indeed. Very powerful indeed. Okay. And that's the opening principles I wanted to explain to you today. So we're going to move on to the next section here. Let all the pieces go back to where they're supposed to go. So, real quick, I do want to touch on, there are these things called openings, okay? Now, you can have an opening in the game that you can learn. For example, you can learn the London system, okay? This is something that I learned. It's my first thing I learned, okay? It starts with D4, and basically what you're trying to do is, wow, it's really hard to look at in reverse. Basically, the setup you're trying to do is something like this. And it differs per game, but it's something like this. You want to get a nice pyramid, you got a bishop that is a lighthouse just searing through black's territory, and then you have another powerful bishop here doing a similar thing, and a knight that protects the square with the pawn and with the thing. So this is an opening system you can learn, and you want to change your moves based on what people play, but you can learn this one. I learned this one. It's a very nice as a beginner, because it kind of helps you understand why you make certain moves in the beginning. It's really, really helpful. Oh my goodness, why can't I grab these pieces? I'm on a kick right now on an opening. Why did I do that? Called the English opening. Gotham Chess says the English opening is stupid, but I like it. It's basically pawn c4, attacking right here, and oh my gosh. Okay, come on. Just an example. This would be like a setup you would want to do. This is called the Four Knights variation. And these are common moves, and then you get to set up a game like this. And this might be a lot to look at, but basically you can learn this and understand why is this important? Why is this something I want to try to get and try to create, like an example in the English. This square is very, very valuable, and you can see I got one pawn attacking it, I got a knight attacking it, and once I move this knight out of the way, I'm going to have another bishop attacking it, and so this is the square I want to protect most. It's called D5, and it is a special guy. So we're going to go back. So if you like the opening principles and you want to learn more and kind of how to implement them, I would suggest going to chess.com or looking up just chess openings online and find a fun one for the beginner. White, it's fun. Black is a little hard because you have to be reactive openings rather than active ones where you make the first move. For example, E5 or E4 is the most popular opening. There are plenty of things you can play to this. You can play, E5. You can play C5, this Sicilian defense that is very, very popular. You can even play, a C5, protecting it. C6, sorry. So there are a lot of different things you can do, and black is a little bit harder to maybe get. I win only 48% of my games as black. I win 60% as white, which I'm very proud of. Or no, 52%. I don't know where I got 60. But 48% of the games I play as black, I lose, so maybe it is 60, I don't know. I think that's Rocket League. I think I'm getting my games confused, but yeah. So just a quick tangent there, but now we're going to do evaluating the board, okay? So each piece has a value, and it's very, very crucial to the game. You understand the value of each piece. I already said this, but the queen is the most valuable piece. It is worth 9 points. Now, what that means in the easiest, I think, way to understand it is that there's an evaluation of the game. There's a position. There is a computer that can look at the game and say, I think, based on this, white should win or has a better chance of winning, or black should win and have a better chance of winning. Because you can actually measure if someone is ahead in points or not. The first and easiest way to do it is basically the queen is worth what 9 pawns are worth. Is a way to say that. So a pawn is crucial in the game, worth 1 point, okay? Each pawn is worth 1 point in the game. So if you lose a pawn, you're technically down a point, and black is up a point. A queen is worth 9 points. So basically, if you have 9 pawns and the other guy, if you have 9 pawns, there's only 8 here, which is why this is confusing. If you had 9 pawns and your opponent only had a queen, it would be an even game. Supposedly, there's some reasons why it would not, but just for the layman's terms and to understand the concept, it would be considered even. Okay? So, because a lot of that is because how much space they take up and all the different lanes of attacking that the queen has. The most valuable piece for sure. So that is important. The next most important piece is the rook. The rook is worth 5 points. And this actually happens if you had 2 rooks and your opponent had a queen. You would technically be winning, because 2 rooks, 10 points, and the queen is 9. 2 rooks are more powerful than a queen, and that's why connecting the rooks is so crucial and important. And those are the major pieces. That's what those are called. The minor pieces are bishops and knights. Now, this is a heated chess debate since Bobby Fischer, since, I don't know, that's probably even before him, but these are worth 3 points each. And put an asterisk there because it's kind of true. The bishop is believed to be worth 3.1 points, a little bit more than the knight. All that means is when you are at the end of the game, you would rather have a bishop than a knight. And one of the main factors is because bishops can move all around the board, and knights need, a lot of moves to move around. And that's kind of what we talked about, the short legs thing on knights. But yeah, they are practically even. So you need to put these things into perspective when you think about trading pieces and capturing pieces. Pawns are worth 1. So basically, I'll demonstrate using an opening, okay? This is an opening. E4. Black can play D5, which you might look at and be confused. Why would black do that? The pawn can just take the pawn. We've established that they can capture diagonally. This seems silly. So let's have pawn do that. E takes D. But there's a plan. The queen can take back. So what this is an even game. Because white has a pawn and black has a pawn out of the game. They've both been captured. You both lost 1 point, so that means you're still even. Now, I believe this is kind of not used very often in the professional level, in the grandmaster level, which is the highest rank. I guess super grandmaster is the highest rank, but grandmaster, super grandmaster kind of level, I don't believe Scandinavian is used all that much. A lot of people don't like it because you can attack the queen. It defies the principle of don't bring your queen out too early because you can attack it, a lot. There's just a lot of things you can do to harass the queen in the beginning, and white can get a lot of development. So we don't need to go into that, but basically, even if you trade pawns, you're even. But this is what makes it crucial. This is the crucial thing of, say there's a position where a rook is there, and let's just say that this is a position somehow. You're like, oh, that's a free bishop. But the knight is attacking, the knight is attacking the rook and protecting the bishop. So the rook might be like, okay, I can move out of the way, or I can attack the bishop. And say you're greedy, you attack the bishop. Yeah, okay. You got a piece, and they take back, they got a piece. But actually, you would be considered worse if you did that, because your rook is worth 5 points, and the bishop's only worth 3, so you'd actually be down 2 points. And this kind of goes into my thing of evaluating a position. Now, computers can evaluate positions to an extreme level and very, very well. We cannot play as good as computers can. But basically, a simple thing to see, when evaluating a position is, what are the pieces that I have? What are the pieces that my opponent has? And if you have the powerful pieces, then you probably will win. At least in the beginning, just keep your rooks on the board. Try to get rid of their rooks. Keep your queen alive. Try to keep your bishop pair alive. Having both bishops is so powerful. If you only have one, it's less powerful, but because you can only cover half the board with the bishops. With rooks, you can cover the whole board. Same with the queen. You can only cover half with the bishop because it's stuck on the color square. So that's an important thing. Another important thing when evaluating a board is there is a space advantage that you want to take into account. So I'm just going to set up a position roughly. Let's just do this. Let's do this for white. And I might be setting up like just such a terrible position. Let's do Queen's Indian for black. Or not Queen's Indian. This is the Queen's Indian. I think that was one, two, three. Well, I don't know. You don't need to math it out. It's okay. Let's say that this is a position, okay? This may be a position that is evaluated a lot. So we need to look at who's winning here. I don't know exactly who's winning, but we have to look at certain things. So space advantage is going to have to be for white here. So white kind of has control of the first 5 ranks here because of this amazing wall of pawns. You almost don't want to move anything here as black because it's just going to get taken. It's going to get attacked, and white may have an advantage. So right now the pieces are equal, but white has a lot more space, which is very advantageous to have space. Me looking at it, I would think that white would be winning, maybe by a slight margin. But basically, every point you're ahead, it's as if you had that many pawns. So if this maybe white is 2 points ahead because of how much space advantage they have. So because of that, white could be winning as if they had 2 more pawns. Because of how much space actually affects the game, and they control the center. It's beautiful. They have a lot of activity. And that is kind of the next thing. So let's move on to piece activity. It's very, very important. So you might look at white and think that a lot of space, so they're winning. Well, we also need to want to take into account 2 piece activity here. So right here is a bishop that it can just see these squares. It is taking control of these squares, and that is beautiful. If we take into account one of black's bishops, this bishop can only see 2 squares. That is not great. We want the bishop to be able to see as much as it possibly can. Kind of same rate with this bishop. That is not a lot of activity because it can only move back. It's still more squares than black squares, but they're not crucial squares. They're squares that he already controls. So you want to keep activity as a big part. Like, if we move the knight here, knight can really only go here, but this knight can go here, and that is a big advantage. Being able to do more with your position is just such an advantage, and you want to try to create a position where you can just do the most you can. So taking as much space as you can is a very crucial aspect of the game. That is something that is great, honestly. I don't know, you want to do that. Another thing is, after space advantage and piece activity, is king safety. Now black might be ahead because look at how safe their king is. White has a lot of space, a lot of activity, a lot of places they could move, but black has got a very safe, snug, like a bug in a rug, as ASMR Chess likes to say. Which, I should say, if you like this sort of content, I don't make quite as amazing, elegant content as ASMR Chess does, so check him out. He's an amazing YouTuber. I have not been able to stop watching his videos for ever since I started chess in April. Yeah, it was April. Maybe it was March, but last March, whatever. I found his channel, and it's just, I've watched him probably every night for, I don't know. But so big thanks to him for making a good template of videos for me to kind of steal from. I don't mean to steal, but he just does them so well. I want to pay homage to him. But so king safety, snug as a bug in a rug. This king is. This king, however, could have some problems. A knight moving here, and then bishop. There's a check right there. There's a lot of things that maybe this king could have problems later because it's not castle, it's not, super protected. It's okay, but this king is just so happy with where he is, who he is protected by. So that's a way to evaluate the board. You want to do this in each game to kind of feel like if you have chances, if you might be winning or if you might be losing, so you can know whether to play aggressively or play defensively. It's important to understand kind of how to evaluate a board, to understand, maybe where you need to get better. So that's just kind of a small thing about evaluating a board. But just remember those 4 things. Who has the more valuable pieces? Who has the space advantage? Who has more piece activity? And whose king is safer? So those are all things you want to put into account when evaluating whether you're winning or losing. Okay. Now we're going to wipe the board and we're going to do some tactics. Okay. So, we're going to talk about the knight here. Talk about the knight for a second. So, I'm going to teach you something called a fork in chess, okay? Let's say this is the position, okay? It's white's move. We need to have a king on the board at least, so white can play. But let's say this is position. So, there's a big, and I'm not going to do a king yet. I'm going to do a rook. Okay. So, there is this thing in chess where it's called a fork. Now, a fork basically means you're attacking 2 pieces at the same time. Now, this is an amazing feat to accomplish, because if you are attacking 2 pieces at the same time, your opponent only has 1 turn to respond. And if you do it right, they can't save both pieces. A good example of this, and we're going to have to do this actually, because I want to make sure that you understand things correctly, okay? We're going to say both kings are castled. Nice and safe. Technically, this is not how they'd be castled, so we need to do... I just want to do it right, guys. I want to teach you right, okay? Okay. And we have to move like that. That's what we'll say is what's happening, okay? We're going to say the board's this. Okay. Now, there's a move that white can make. Right now, white is losing. And white only has, what is this, 5, 3, so 8, 9, 10, 11 points. Black has 5, 8, plus 9, 17 points. Because black is ahead of queen, for a knight, that's pretty significant. Now, let's say what happens is, let's say this is the position, okay? And let's say black wants your knight. So black moves there. This is called a blunder, because they messed up their move. Okay? This is called a fork. Now, this knight move is a beautiful move because it attacks 2 pieces. It attacks the queen, it attacks the rook. Now the queen cannot move anywhere to take the knight, and the rook cannot take the knight either. So that means if you can't take the piece that's being threatened, you need to try to move your piece out of the way. So obviously I didn't even realize that my king is in check, so we're going to say that's it. Sorry to everyone who maybe that was annoying too. We don't want to lose the queen because the queen is more valuable, so let's move the queen here. Boom. You just won a rook, and now your position looks a lot better than it did before. So fork is very, very powerful. Attacking two pieces at the same time is very powerful, even if it's like two rooks. This one you'd be winning. Look at, you're down a rook, right? You're down. They have two rooks. You have a knight and a rook. Let's say that's what they move. Say they move there, or say they move there. Okay, well you got a fork here because you're attacking two pieces. You know, they can try to protect the piece at least, but look at it. Now it's an even game. You just made the game even. Now you both have a rook. And this is, you know, determined as a tie with perfect play. So that's a way to fork with the knight. But you can also fork with the bishop. You know, say that this is the position, okay? This is scary. Let's say that this is scary, you know, they're seeing each other. That is a scary thing to do. Well, there is an amazing move here. The bishop noticed that both the rooks are on dark squares. If you notice that, okay? Where does my dark squared bishop have to go to take advantage of this? The answer in this position is e3. Now this is beautiful because it actually is teaching another concept. So you're forking these two, right? They can't go anywhere to protect both of them, right? But you're also doing this amazing thing where you are attacking the king. Now remember, the king is the most important piece, right? We can't have this. We can't allow this. Unfortunately, these rooks can't protect the king. There's nowhere that they can go that can protect the king, so the king just has to move out of the way. So, that means, boom. Now that is especially beautiful. That is an amazing thing to do, especially with the knight. This is very common. This is one of the best things to do is if you get this position. Like, this is beautiful because say it's your move, the queen is right there, boom, shatter their world. The king is attacked, the queen cannot do anything about it, and that's why the knight is so powerful, is because the queen cannot attack the knight. The knight is really powerful here because it attacks the king and the queen cannot take back. So that means the king moves out of the way, boom, you get the queen. That is a fork. You are simply attacking two pieces at the same time. It's important to note that this would not work very well if it was right here. I mean, it actually still work well, but the queen can take. So, you know, it's a little bit better forking with the knight. Okay. So that's a big deal. Forking is attacking two pieces at the same time. You can find that. There's a lot of ways. The bishop can fork. You know, even as simple, just like thing like this. Like, you know, that's a fork right there. You're attacking two pieces, and neither of the pieces can take you, so you're going to get one of them. Yeah, it's mine. Sorry. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful tactic in the game. Okay. The next thing is a pin. Okay. A pin is very, very important. So pinning a piece is basically meaning you cannot move this piece without a catastrophic thing happening. So the easiest way to pin is with the king. If you pin a piece to the king. So let's say I'm a queen right here, okay? Now, this is a move that you might think is bad when you first see it, okay? I'm going to make the legendary move queen to c3. Now, you might see that and be like, uh-oh, miscalculation. The pawn can take. But actually, the pawn cannot take. It cannot. Because if the pawn took, the rook can capture the king. And we already talked about how you cannot. It is illegal to allow your king to be in danger, to make a move that puts your king in danger. That is not allowed. So you actually cannot move this pawn, and this queen is free to go. And if the king, okay, if the king made a move like this, that's checkmate. If you can see it, that's checkmate. So pinning a piece is very powerful, and it just means you cannot move the piece because, it happens. So like, that is a very powerful thing to utilize, is pinning a pawn. And you can even do things like this would pin a knight. You can even do it with a queen. You get this queen, this is your queen, because the queen can take here, but then you take back with a pawn and you're up a queen. It's beautiful. So pinning is very, very powerful. The next thing, and you can even actually, real quick, for pinning, you can even pin other pieces because the queen is so valuable. You could pin a knight. So say this was the position, right? How did I set this up? Okay. Say this is the position, okay? White wants to attack your queen, so boom, attacks the queen right here. Now what you can actually do is do a nice move like this. We're going to move that out of the way. A nice move like this where, now if your knight moves and captures the queen, I capture your queen. So I'm pinning your knight. Your knight can still legally move, but it results in danger for you. Like, what if this was switched and it was something like this? Now you don't even want to take the rook because I get a queen for your rook. It's a bad trade. So you can pin other pieces as well. The next thing is called a skewer. Okay, and we're going to demonstrate a skewer. Like so. Okay. Let's say your bishop's right here, and you make the move. We're going to pretend the king... Oh, shoot. We're going to pretend it's like that, because I don't want someone to watch this and be like, oh, but you can checkmate the king. What are you guys doing? A skewer is attacking a piece. It's the opposite of a pin. So this is a skewer. I'm attacking the queen. Now the queen could take, but then you'd still lose. But then you'd still lose the queen, right? So let's say instead, sorry that I keep dropping these, I don't know what's going on. Instead, you want to move this out of the way, but you can still grab another piece. So basically, it's getting a free piece from threatening a more powerful piece. So a pin is the opposite, where you don't want to move the rook because then you lose. My goodness, I need to get better weighted ones. A pin is the opposite, where you're attacking a small piece with a big piece behind it. And a skewer is you're attacking a big piece with a small piece behind it. And in both ones, you usually get the small piece. And this, sorry, I don't want to be too fast. If you're attacking the small piece, you usually want to just grab the small piece. But if you're attacking the big piece moves out of the way, you still get the small piece. So those are those two right there. That's called a skewer. Another powerful thing is called a discover check. So let's make the board look like this. We'll use a bishop. Okay. Let's say that this is the position, okay? And the queen is threatening to take the rook. That's what we'll say. There's this thing called a discover check, which means is instead of using a piece and using that piece to check the king like this, you can actually move this piece out of the way to check the king. Because see this bishop, this sniper bishop, you can actually win the queen here. If you move your rook here, your bishop can now see the king. That's called discovering a check, because this bishop didn't move, another piece did, and because the bishop didn't move, it then discovered another check. And you can't move your queen. I mean, you could move your queen, you still lose your queen basically. No matter what, this black queen is gone. But, you know, say king moves, you get a free queen, and that's checkmate. But yeah, that is a very powerful move. It's when you use another piece to move out of the way and discover a check on the enemy king. Now, another thing is a double check. In kind of the same realm, you could move queen thing there and they lose the queen, or you could do something else and you move rook here. Now that is also powerful because queen can take the rook, but it actually can't because you're still in check, right? It's called a double check. And now, fortunately, this is also checkmate because there's nowhere the king can move and there's no pawn that can block or anything. If the pawn was here, the king could move out of the way, and you still can take the queen. So just on a similar level, you can use two different tactics in this position. You can just discover a check, or you can put a double check on there. And if a very important thing is if you're checking with two pieces, the king will have to move. It's kind of a rule. I believe there's no exception to that rule. But if you're attacking the king with two different pieces, that means that the king then has to move. And it's always better for the king to move out of check than for a piece to block it. Almost always. There's exceptions to that for sure, but if you can make the king move, it is so powerful. It's called a forcing move. It's beautiful. So yeah, so those are the basic tactics that I want you to learn and utilize in your games. Let's wipe the board again. Okay. Now basic checkmates. Okay. There are some basic checkmates I would love for you to learn. We're going to be going against black again. So there are a few pieces that can win. If you just have a king, if you have two kings, that's a stalemate, because you can't move to a place where another guy can take, right? You can't do anything. They kind of bounce off each other like they're magnets. But if you had a king, and let's say you had two rooks, there's something you can do called a ladder mate, okay? So the rooks are like this. You want the rooks to be side by side like this, okay? So the king is here. This is called a ladder mate. Okay. Rook h6. King can't move here because this rook is locking off this diagonal. So king could move here, right? Or king. Let's have king move there. All you gotta do is you gotta keep doing it. It's climbing the ladder. Rook there. Rook g5. Now this rook is no longer the attacking rook, but it's keeping. Oh my gosh. My hands are too big, I guess. Wink, wink. Gross. Just forget I said that. Basically, this rook is protecting this 6th rank, and the king can't move back, so then it moves there. You can just keep going. This rook, no, okay, can't go there. I'm gonna keep going, and this is called a ladder mate. But this is checkmate. Beautiful checkmate. Now I did do it the easiest way, because you do need to watch out. You can't just pre-move it, because what if the king went here? You can't do that, because then the rook can be taken, right? So you do need to watch out when it's like a good time to move them to the other side. But it's still hopeless. That's called a ladder mate. That is the most basic of checkmates. That does happen a lot. Too often you see people trying to checkmate in weird ways and move the rooks around, but basically just get them to the sides and climb the ladder. As long as you're restricting the king from moving back, he will move the direction you want them to move. Boom. Checkmate there. Now we're going to get a little bit more complex. King in the middle. We're going to checkmate with a rook, or with a queen and a king. Okay, now this is a harder checkmate. But basically, if you can visualize a box that the queen makes. Okay. So let's do king moves here. Immediately move a spot. The king cannot go next to the queen unless the queen moves next to the king. So if the queen moved there, you lose the game. But just keep the king away. Queen can see this. Queen can see this. And queen can see this here as well. So king can move there. All you gotta do is make sure the king and queen are next to each other, okay? When the king and queen are next to each other, the king is terrified. Because the king can protect the queen. He needs help, so move there. King can't take the queen because then my king will take that king. Beautiful. So king moves away. Now you gotta think about this, closing the box. You gotta get the king to the corner. Always get the king to the corner. Close the box, okay? Right now this is the box. Now this is the box. Okay. King moves there. You know what? Close the box even further. Now this is the box. Now if we do this, don't move the queen. No, no, no. They can be taken, and you need to make sure they're next to each other. So king moves instead. Move that. You know what? They're not. The king is not getting out of this box. The king is not. So just keep getting closer. You can do that. Now the king is stuck on the corner. You got that. Keep closing the box. One legal move here. Checkmate. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but just remember closing the box, keeping the king and queen next to each other, and you'll win. Okay, we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to bring a rook on. Okay. Very similar with the box, okay? Very similar with the box. Okay. Move there. What do we do? Here's the box. Close it. As long as the rook is protected, the king can do nothing. So we move there. Well, if we move here, the box is open, the king can move over here. So we don't want to do that. We can move here, close the box more, but rook is not protected. So that means king moves. Move there. You know what? We're not scared of this. You could move the rook, but you don't want to open the box over here. Same thing. Rook gets taken. You know what? We're just going to move the king again. We're going to make sure that this box is nothing can be done. There's two moves you can make here as black. You can move here, which then we know we close the box. But if you moved here, that's kind of hard. But actually, just move the king. King can be a part of the box as well. There. Now we're closing the box. So we're going to go back to that. King moves. Close the box. Okay? King moves. Can't move the rook. Won't be helpful, so move the king. King moves there. You know, just slowly, incremental. Into that. This is called a passing move. Now, this is a little complex, but you don't want to move the king anywhere where the rook can be taken, obviously. Sorry. And you can't really move the rook anywhere because you don't want the box to get bigger, so just move the king back. King there. Rook closing the box. King there. Well, keep doing that. King back. Well, I'm going to keep making sure that my rook is protected. Who's there? Now there is a real threat of checkmate. There's a real threat. King cannot move here. King cannot move here. King cannot move anywhere besides here. Always get the king to the corner. Checkmate. King cannot go anywhere. Those are the three most basic checkmates that I thought would be important for you to know. Okay. Now, real quick, I'm going to set up a position, and then we're going to talk about the thought process of making a move, okay? The thought process on making a move, making a move, making a move, okay? Here we go. Okay. Okay. Now this is a very peculiar position, okay? I want you to take it in. You are white and you are about to win. Do you know why you're about to win? Probably not, okay? Probably not, but that's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Because black is going to make the blunderous move for you. You ready? So, black decides you've pushed this pawn too far. He wants to take it. Now, you maybe as a beginner, and a lot of intermediates, honestly, as well, would not know that that means you lose the game. The game is lost. That move by itself means you lose the game. And it's not apparent right away. You might be thinking, how is that why is that what? So here's what we gotta do. I'm gonna go through the 4 basic things that I look for when I'm trying to make a move, okay? Because this is a lot to look at. This is a lot to look at. And eventually it'll look like less the more you play, but this is a lot to look at, okay? Here's how you make a move. First thing you need to look for is always look for checks, okay? Look for where you can attack the king. Now, in this position, there's really... Let's see. Are there any checks, okay? Let's see. Are there any checks? We check the king. If we take this bishop... No, that doesn't check the king. It's kind of hard to... Well, you know what? Okay, I do see a check. It's a check. Right here. If you move the bishop to capture this piece, you check the king. That's a check. Now let's see. The king can take. So maybe I don't want to do that. I don't know. At least we know where a check is. Okay. Let's look for checks. We have that there. Let's keep it in the back of our mind. Next thing I want to do is look for attacks. We kind of already did that. We know that we can attack this. That's there. Is there anything under fire right now? Well, we can take this knight from this rook. We could just take it. That would be, we get a free knight. That'd be beautiful. Maybe, black didn't see that. Okay. That's awesome. What else do we got? Any other attacks? I mean, this is attacking the pawn, but we know that if we take it, it's check. So I think that's kind of it for attacks. Is there any other moves we can make? I mean, I guess we could move, but that would be an attack. I don't know. We don't have anything attacking right now. Okay. We got this. We got that. We got this. Okay. Next thing we want to look for is threats. What is threatening us? What are we worried about? The first thing I see is this bishop is being attacked by 2 pieces. Now it's being attacked by the knight, and now it's being attacked by the bishop as well. That is a lot. That's a lot to deal with. This bishop is overwhelmed. It's only protected by 1 piece, so maybe what could we do to make it attacked? Could we get it run away? Yeah, we can move it here maybe, but then it could be attacked. I don't know. Here is still attacked. It's not that many great moves. We could remove an attacker by, again, taking the knight here. Then it's only 1 bishop. Okay, that's not bad. Let's keep that in the back of our minds. Any other threats become apparent? I mean, this knight can take this pawn. We have it nice protected, though, by this pawn, and this knight, so I'm not too worried about that. The queen now, with this knight moving, the queen now can see all these squares, so these are now harder to see. But I don't know. Let's put a pin in that. Okay. So this is a game I actually played once, and this is why I'm excited to show you what I thought of. And it's not really what I thought of. It's actually called the Greek gift. But after threats, you want to look for just random development and space. So like queen move in here, it takes up all this space. Attacking this, possibly in the future, that is a nice move. Moving a knight here, as there's a lot of space, the queen can attack it, but it's protected by the bishop, so I'm not too worried about that. There's a lot of things you can look for, just a space in general, like where can I get more space advantage? Where can I develop my pieces? Even if you just want to do straight up development like this, that's totally fine. So maybe you want a castle. That's just development right there. That's the last thing you want to look for. Or that's not the last thing, but like that is the number 4 on the list of things that I look for. So basically I'm going to go back to checks, okay? So one thing I had seen earlier was this is a bit of a weak square, okay? The rook is going to potentially attack it soon. The bishop is already attacking it, and the knight, if I move the knight here, I'm attacking it. So maybe I should, that's good. So that's when I push the pawn more. Now this knight took. Now previously this knight was protecting this square, h7, right? But moving it out of the way, now it is no longer. So I did this thing, which I didn't know at the time, is called the Greek gift. I'm very proud of this game. I think I was maybe 600 or 700, I don't know. I was learning the London system. This check right here is beautiful. Boom. Check the king. King is under attack. King could move here, or my opponent was like, why not? Why not just take the bishop? Why not just take the bishop? That's a free bishop. I got a bishop and you got a pawn? Easy. And I already got a free pawn here. Amazing. No. There are a lot of pieces that can now be used in amazing ways. Okay. I move knight. Checking the king. Now here's where my opponent messed up. At worst, really, they lose a queen because they can grab, and it's no longer attacked. And then I get a queen. So that's worse, and then you get some scary stuff. The knight is pinned, like we talked about. But what they decided is, I'm just gonna move out of the way. Easy. The only thing I didn't see is my queen taking the knight. This queen came out of nowhere, didn't it? Bam. And now there's nothing. And now there's nothing that can stop. He moved the king out of the way. And I got checkmate. And now there's nothing that can stop it. I think someone's having trouble in the kitchen, so I need to probably check on them, make sure they're okay. But thank you guys for watching that. Thank you guys for watching this chess game. I hope you guys can enjoy chess in the future, and I hope that you are part of our chess boom and you get to make us a much better, happier,